Hello everybody, this is just a quick video giving an overview of a battle we've just fought. Myself and a member of Like a Stonewall are up in Mansfield, Rich Hudson. Thanks Rich for helping me take part in this. Using the brand new rules, Never Mind the Billhooks, aimed exclusively at the Wars of Roses late medieval period. I've done an earlier video on sort of how this came about, but this is a free set of rules with the September 2020 edition of Wargames Illustrated. Comes in the physical copy of that. You can download from the website. You can also buy it direct from the WI website. It's not expensive if you're not a subscriber. So we thought we'd give it a go. And we've just finished our first run through with it with my collection here. And yeah, it went really well. We really enjoyed it. As you can see, I've reset everything now, so we're not in mid scrap here, but I'll put a couple of pictures up showing how things sort of unfolded. And yeah, it's just wanted to give you an overview, and rather than doing sort of like very long detailed battle reports on this channel, the idea is to give you sort of like rough overviews of how things have gone with particular rule sets or particular scenarios, rather than do everything sort of move by move, because I haven't got the patience, don't know about you, to do a video that's that long, doing every single manoeuvre. But yeah, I just thought so I'm going to explain how the basic mechanics of how this works, now we've got a bit of a good grasp of it. And then I'll just give you a sort of breakdown of quickly of what actually happened in the game. Talk a bit about what's on the table. So first things first, it's primarily a 28mm set of rules. It can be adapted. It's a turn-based system using cards to determine what goes when, largely, which you'll be familiar with if you've ever played anything like Two Fat Lardies. Sets of rules, there's sort of similar elements to that in terms of the way things move. When it comes to sort of forces, first things first, I'm really sorry, Andy Callan, the author. First time we did this, I took the mick, and both of these armies are twice the size they should be, as according to the rules. It suggests 100 points a side. They're even higher than that, I think. Lancastrians, which are on that far side, were 223 points. Yorkists on this side were about 217, so we didn't get it quite right. Why did I do that? Bravado? I don't know. I think it was just because I don't get many chances to get all this stuff out and get it on this table. That not as many as I want, so it was a good opportunity to get this particular period out and get it all out and have a go with it. So I went for it, and I can sort of see, I'll go on, talk a bit later about why we did that, and why I definitely want to have a go next time with how it should be played, which is a smaller side. So it's designed, it's a big battle, big skirmish, small battle rules, as it describes itself. So you're supposed to have 100 points aside, so roughly you'd end up with roughly 100 figures aside. Here there's about 180 aside, I think, here, something like that, 160. So this game was too big for the rules, but we got a good grasp and understand how it works. So we split our forces up into wards, as it suggests. So you're supposed to divide your forces into 2 or 3 wards controlled by 2 or 3 leaders aside. So in a nutshell, just taking this for example, Yorkist side, right flank, right ward was commanded by Gloucester there. Middle ward, which is this lot, commanded by Edward Earl of March, last Edward IV. And on that side over there, we got Warwick, Earl of Warwick. This isn't meant to represent any particular engagement of the period. It's just lots of sort of big hitters from the time that have ended up in the same battlefield somehow. It's entirely fictional. So once we've done that, we tried to, particularly on this Yorkist side, we tried to chuck in a couple of different types of units you're allowed in this game. So for example, you're allowed skirmishers there, which we've got as 15th century Irish from Perry Miniatures. Relatively recent metals, very nice they are too. We've got a couple of companies of archers. As you can see, you can do this on multi-basing, but it says in the rule set ideally you can be singly based, and it works as single basing. You could obviously use tokens to denote casualties rather than taking them singly off easily. But in general, things go in sort of blocks of 6 and then 12. So you've got a company of archers there, company of archers there, company of billmen there. That is actually a light horse unit, which is squadrons of 8 horses tend to come in. And then your leader operates as a single unit who can attach himself to stuff. So that's how a ward works in your typical army. FYI, in this particular game, what we did for the leaders was, because everything I've got generally tends to be singly based, we moved the leader as a single figure representing that leader with a little standard bearer with him, just so he's easy to spot on the table. So yeah, that's how a ward works and how each sort of bit of the army works. You've got Commander-in-Chief, which in this case is Edward, who's obviously the leader of your army. And yeah, so how this works is, in a nutshell, you have a card deck system. Your leaders are allocated a card, each one, which you write on there. Leaders come in levels, so you can have 1, 2 or 3 star, or 1, 2 or 3 class of leader. We just did everything as 2. And then basically they go into the deck. Each of your leaders, they go into something called the play deck. And then, in a nutshell, in there you have all your leaders. So obviously they are activated when their card comes out. There's also little bonus cards, skirmish and artillery fire on certain cards, so on and so forth. It's not a huge deck. In it goes, like that. So that's your play deck ready. And another important factor when it comes to sort of winning the game and moving around is each unit tends to be allocated one of these, which is a morale token. And you gather up those morale tokens, and so you end up with something like, I don't know, in the real game you'd end up with less than we've got here, but you'd end up with something like 8, 9 morale tokens, and you keep them out of sight of your opponent in a little storage. It's just houses, so we use those. So kept mine in there, and Rich cross table there, he's got his Lancastrian morale tokens in there. In a nutshell, how you win the game, or one of the main ways you win the game, is when you kill or rout a unit of your opponent off the table, they give you one of their morale tokens. You set that aside, and once your opponent can't give you any more morale tokens, you've won the game, basically. Once your opponent's run out, or they concede, and say, I can't win this. Which does happen in our games a fair bit. So yeah, going into a little bit more detail. One thing I really liked was that you can, you do a manoeuvre phase first. So the first thing you do before you start turning cards is there is a movement phase, basically, which is the initial engagements of the battle. And you don't need cards for that. You just move one unit at a time. So I would move a unit, and across the table there, Richard would move a unit. That carries on without using any cards until one of you wants to fire at or charge or sort of engage in combat with another unit. That then ends the movement phase, and you switch to the cards. Obvious bonus of that is you don't have to, when you're moving around, you haven't got to wait for your card to come up, so you can get that sort of moving towards each other bit out the way. It's still fairly sort of dynamic and you're reacting to each other, but it's reasonably quick. And then when you get to that phase, obviously you do your first bit of shooting or engagement, and then you switch to your play deck. So that's it then. That's movement phase out of the way, all done. Then you'd switch to your play deck and you would turn your cards to denote who's going to go when. So in this case, first thing I've got on the play deck is I've drawn a Lancastrian leader Somerset, who's over there in that top left hand corner, and then he would, because he's a class 2 leader Somerset, he would get 2 of these, which are little order tokens, and he can order 2 units in his ward to carry out actions, and they get 2 actions each, and they're the things you'd expect, like move, shoot, charge somebody, that kind of thing. So that's how the sort of sequence of events works. And then these other cards, you might turn over the bonus card, in which case whoever's turned that over, actually no, you go a little dice off to decide who actually gets to draw from the bonus deck. And then these little bonus cards contain tricky little sneaky little things like dummy cards where there's nothing, or forfeit when you can take away an action from somebody or something like that, in little perks like that. And then occasionally this will lead to you drawing sometimes from this special event pack. In a nutshell, you get a cool move. So for example, there's a flank attack, is this one I've drawn here, where I can use a bit of dead ground to make a surprise sneaky little flank attack on a melee and conduct a melee on somebody. So that's how it works basically. And then I suppose other key elements that are nice to it, archers must make up. Archers and Bill, I think, have got to make up at least half of your force, so there's plenty of them on the table. And your archers have got short range and long range effectiveness. They are quite key, obviously, but they're not going to completely swing the battle for you, which is good. And they're also limited ammo, so they only get 6 shots each, which I think you suggested that you use with the sort of countdown of a dice, which we did. A dice token next to them. And then the real sort of nitty gritty, where you will win or lose this, is not in the shooting and faffing about. It's in melee, basically. Melee. Where I won't go through the whole sequence, but you may charge an opponent. They can counter charge in some situations, and then obviously you've got a very straightforward system here. This is a crib sheet, really straightforward, where you get a dice per model in general, or half a dice or a dice per model, and then you throw to hit, and then count up your hits. Then your opponent throws to save. Anything that doesn't save tends to die. Simple as that. And there's other little mechanics, like leaders can rally units. You can, as all this goes on, you start to die. You can end up in sort of disarray or disorder, which some of these tokens work for. You can sort of period disarray. And also there's a sort of system whereby you can be daunted, which is one of these, meaning you're shook up and your troops have taken sort of heavy losses or whatever, and they've fallen back, and they need a leader to rally them. Otherwise, they're probably eventually going to end up either being useless or routing. So yeah, it moves nice and quickly back and forth once the card system gets going. It's very simple combat shoot. The system of melee and shooting is very straightforward. When it came to the leaders, what we should have done when we were scaling up this game, by going straight in and doubling the size of it, is we should have given our leaders more than 2 orders each per every time their card came up. We should have given them more orders, which would have meant we could have done a bit more, because we only got a couple of good melees in this game before we sort of ran out of time. But in a nutshell, where we ended up is I think I pinched slightly more of Richard's morale tokens than he did, but there was still a long way to go when we sort of ran out of time on this one. I think lesson for next time is probably stick to the size it suggests, but it does show that it could very easily be scaled up in size, which I'm definitely going to do. Overall, I'm really happy with them. Definitely give it a go, and anybody who likes reasonably quick moving rules that at least have a hat tip and a good understanding of a flavour for the period will like these. And it's the kind of rule set I've been waiting for Roses, really. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff you can do, but we've not had a big battle small skirmish style rule set specifically for that's straightforward anyway for this period since I've been collecting these past 3 years, and it's arrived. Here we go. I loved it. I think it was great, and thanks very much to Andy for writing that, and for WI and the way they've distributed it, free in the copy, and dead easy to get hold of online. If anybody's given it a go, let me know. Get it down in the comments. I'm looking forward to learning a bit more about what people have done and the sort of the finer points of it. One thing we didn't do very well in this game was you can attach archers to other units, so they become one unit, so they can move with other units. We didn't do that because we were a bit sloppy, and we should have got into that a bit more. But yeah. Then overall, how the game panned out, yeah, it was fairly evenly balanced in the end. In a nutshell, the skirmishers were a nuisance, as you'd expect up here. Lancastrian knights over there charged this way. Battered these light horse, but then got a good old salvo from these archers, and I think ended up routing themselves in the end. Archers and men at arms in the middle there. Lancastrians did cross this river, give us a few problems. In the middle, bit of an artillery duel went on because we've got a cannon up there and one up there as well for the Yorkists. And then also that's actually a light horse unit that's a little bit too small, by the way, but it's a light horse unit that eventually got picked off by archers and cannon on the hill there, as you'd expect. And then infantry wise, Pike moved up, Audley's lot came across the river there. There was a bit of a standoff there, a bit of shooting and so on and so forth. Never really got into much of a scrap, unfortunately. Over here, Warwick pushed on with this group of handgunners, helped him out, and caused quite a lot of casualties on Somersets up there. And basically it ended up as a draw. But it was very enjoyable, really good. I'll put plenty of pictures up. People that are wondering, about 90% of what's on the table is Perry miniatures, mixture of plastics and metals, with a handful of metal Wargames Foundry, and even some front rack as well. There's some front rack there too, so most of the major manufacturers are represented here somewhere. And there's approaching something like 360, 380 figures on the table in total. It was also really good to get some of the terrain I've been having a go at in lockdown out. The epoxy resin river there is through the middle, which we counted as a wide stream that you could wade through. These roads made out of messed up flooring from my garage are in the middle there, and that's the matchstick house that I built in lockdown as well, basically just out of coffee stirrers and cardboard, which took ages. Plus the grass mat is a massive bath towel that was brown that I painted up with a mixture of different colours to represent a texture static grass. So that's that. Give it a go, I really enjoyed it. I'm going to get in the forum on Facebook and ask a few questions and post a few pictures and stuff. And yeah, let me know what you think, if you're playing it or thinking of playing it, down in the comments. Give us a like and subscribe if you've not done so already, please. And I'll see you next time for another one. Bye for now.